I've always managed to stay close to home in Los Angeles, and I've done a lot of clubs and things, corporate things there, but basically I'm more interested in media, television, radio, that sort of thing. I think what really kind of put me on the map and got me a good foothold was Penn and Teller's Bullshit, which I did the pilot episode for, called Speaking with the Dead, and that actually received an Emmy Award nomination, not just for me, but for all the rest of the segments which were on that show. So it was very highly regarded. That led to a lot of other things, although I'd done some TV before that, which were generally believer shows. It really got me onto the Skeptic track with a lot of people who are interested in the falsehoods that are being spread. So that's a good place to start if you want to see. And I also have a lot of YouTube videos that are under Mark Edward, which will show you my own personal videos that I've done just for the fun of it.
Okay, grief vampires. Now,
yes.
People grieve because they lose people,
right?
And people who think that they can, people who profess to talk to dead. Do you think most of them believe that they talk to dead?
No, I think they're outright charlatans who are taking advantage of people to make money.
That's unfortunate.
Sorry. It's a sad fact of life that the worse conditions get in the world, the more of these people come into the limelight. So we're in a pretty big, I call it the golden age of the con.
Right, the golden age of the con. I mean, like, certainly media certainly helps people become very famous for this sort of thing. You know?
Yes, they're part of the problem, because they're not fair and balanced, and they very seldom have any skeptical content at all. So in fact, I've kind of agreed that if I do any more television, I'm not going to do anything that has to do with showing both sides. I've had it with that. Don't call me. I don't need the money. I don't need the tape. You know, people say, we'll get you a great piece of tape. Sorry, you're showing both sides. You're part of the problem. And it's not that I'm saying I know everything, because I certainly don't, but I can't tolerate a show that shows psychics and then gives the skeptic maybe 30 seconds. It's just, that has to stop. In America, we're tired of being lied to, and so this is a good time to get a foothold. So that's one of the reasons I'm here.
People grieve for their lost ones. Is there a better way to resolve some of the issues you have with losing people rather than try and contact the dead through charlatan?
Oh, absolutely. You go to a certified grief counselor. They work in funeral homes, and they've studied grief and how to deal with it. And they are not trying to get a hook in you in order to keep you as a customer for as long as they can. They take you through stages or steps, and then they let you go, and that's the way to go. I mean, really, it's a closure. It's not an opening. And the grief vampires that we study and we go after, they're looking for an opening. And once they get the hook in, they will not let go till you're dead, or you're out of money, or you've lost everything, and then they'll move to somebody else. This is the pattern.
Seems to be the opposite of what people need.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, what's the harm? And I can point to hundreds of examples of people who have been harmed. So, I mean, I think if you can manage to, if you want to get a tarot reading or something and then move on and not go back to that person, that's harmless. But the problem is that the real grief vampires, they don't let you go. You know, they don't, once they've got that emotional hook, they're not going to let you leave until they have done as much as they can.
It's not a new phenomenon. This has been something that people have been doing for a long time.
Oh yeah, doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah. So what examples in history, is there any historical examples that loom large? That
every day. I mean, if we look at every time there's been a World War, World War I or World War II, these people come out of the woodwork and make themselves available to reach out to missing soldiers, or they go to parents of missing soldiers and offer their so-called services. So, I mean, how many wars have we had? How many? We're probably in a few right now. So, yeah, I think history is replete with this kind of blatant criminality of the worst kind. So I don't see it as stopping, but I do see it as we have an opportunity to educate people, kind of a buyer beware type thing. It's kind of, for me, it's a consumer alert, a way to at least give an alternative point of view. Like I say, if you find somebody who gives you comfort, it could be a priest, it could be a bartender, it could be a family member, that's what you need to reach out to. But the last place you need to go is a psychic or a medium, so-called, because they're not going to take you in the right direction. It's very unhealthy and unwholesome.
I had a couple of experiences with seances when I was a kid and a teenager, and what I got a buzz from it. In a sense, it was this sort of awe and this sort of wow, this is mysterious. Maybe something's really happening. And
sure,
it was a rush. I mean,
well, but everybody likes a roller coaster ride, but you don't want to be on it forever. I mean, I do seances for entertainment. Okay, I use examples and I try to inject as much skepticism as I can without puncturing the distorted reality that I'm presenting. So yeah, it's thrilling. It's a thrill ride if it's done right. But along the way, I think it's necessary. I mean, I don't do seances if people say, hey, we need to get in touch with Uncle Bill because we can't find the will, or, you know, we want to really reach out to one of our relatives. I don't do that. I want it to be entertaining, and I want to point out that it is, I mean, I don't like to say this, a magic show in the dark. Okay, so yeah, anything where there's lights out can be terrifying, and if you learn to manipulate the darkness, that's what really what it's about. So what I do is, I mean, that's my entertainment side to it, but my skeptical side is saying, hey, you know, don't take this stuff seriously, because it'll really end up engulfing your life and your emotions. So I put a lot of humor into what I do. It's dark humor, you know, like a Hitchcock sort of thing, and I think it really works because people lighten up instead of becoming depressed. There's nothing more depressing than a real seance. It's terrible. It's boring. It just basically, the medium is looking for somebody they can get their claws into, and once they do, they say, well, you need to come to me for a private reading, and the rest is history. I certainly don't do that. I tell people, you know, I'm doing this as entertainment. I don't ever want to see you again unless you want to book another entertainment seance. There is no I'm not trying to build a relationship. So there's a difference. One is accepted as entertainment. One is a form of manipulation.
Did you ever have an experience? Did you ever play with the occults when you were younger?
Oh, I do it all the time.
Did you ever believe it?
No. I play with it because there's basically two different kinds of magic. I grew up as a magician. My grandfather was a magician. So there's magic spelled with a C. That's the tricks and the coins and that sort of thing. And then there's magic with a K, which is the old magic, the pagan magic. Oh, does that mean it's over? The ritual magic, the ceremonial magic. I love all of that stuff because if you can mix the two, then you have something very powerful, because magic tricks are magic tricks and people can dismiss that. A magic with a K, which is more ceremonial and more ritual, like a seance, it can be a little more dark, and I like dark. I like the dark because we're all fascinated with the unknown. So and also most magic has no meaning for happening. If I take a red handkerchief and I put it in my hand and it comes out green, so what? there's to me, I mean, I love it as a performance, but to me, it really has no reason to exist or happen. Now, with ESP and clairvoyance and demonstrations of this sort of thing, people say, "What if?" or they may want to believe that. So right from the get-go, you're kind of ahead of the usual magic game. So I learned, I mean, I will always do all kinds of magic, but for my money and my time, I'd much rather be a storyteller than a clever trickster. You know, I mean, I've known people who have spent their entire life with a pack of cards, 50, 60 years, and that's it. Not me. I mean, I know some pretty damn good card tricks, but if it looks like a trick, I'm not really interested. I'm more interested in suggesting the possibility of another world. Okay, that's why I read ghost stories. It's why I immerse myself in this kind of. It's not magical thinking because I don't believe in it, but magical thinking seasons what I do so that it can appeal to a bigger crowd. So I don't always work for skeptics, obviously.
In in the olden times, there must have been a heap of magical thinking, especially when you didn't have good scientific explanations for the way the world worked. It would seem like an interesting shortcut to try and explain things that we just had
Oh, absolutely.
no clue about.
Absolutely. Well, with magic, as if you study it, Arthur C. Clarke said any form of advanced technology appears as magic. So with magic today, particularly, the goal is to try and use scientific principles and stay one step ahead of the rest of society. So if you have some substance or some technique that is just been discovered scientifically, and you can turn that around and use it to create an illusion, that's where it's at. And I think if you go back centuries, that's exactly what happened. That's what alchemists were about, cunning men, these people who turned superstition into coin, basically, is that's what it was all about, and it still is. Except now I think there's a little more nefarious edge to it, and it's very simple to convince anybody that you have supernormal powers just by doing a simple card trick, if I want to play it that way. But it's a challenge to make things even and entertaining at the same time.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm very interested in the future of technology. I mean, what sort of technologies are you interested in seeing the progress of?
Oh, well, I'm interested in anything that involves creating an illusion based on a myth. I love myths. I love mythology. So I would like to be involved with any chemical, electronic, technological advances that would allow me to portray a well-known principle, or not a principle, a well-known story. Like we have, water to wine and wine to water. That's chemical magic. So, maybe Jesus was, if there was a Jesus, he was just a really smart magician who knew the right chemicals to put together to make that appear to happen. So anything that is, and I can't really give you an example without giving away a secret, but there's a couple things that I've used that weren't even in existence up until about 7 or 8 years ago. And now they've been taken out of their scientific reason why they were created and turned to use by magicians. And it is totally baffling. I mean, you have no explanation for it unless you are privy to some of these complex scientific modalities. So I'm interested in anything that is can be turned into an illusion, and they're out there. We saw a couple last night at the dinner that were really very good. One was using cell phones. It was brilliant, and it's out there. It's just you have to twist it and turn it into a way of using it. You don't have to, but my teachers in magic always said, "Okay, there it is. Now, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with this principle? How can you make it work?" So, I love holograms. I love illusions that use light. like Pepper's Ghost, if you've ever seen that. I mean, that was turn of the century, but it was very stunning to see images on a stage that you could see through, those sort of things. So applications in theatrical productions that are easy and portable, that sort of thing.
What, any thoughts about any of the talks at this conference so far? What's fascinated you?
Oh, I thought they were all fascinating, and there's still more. I liked, I'd have to think about it, there's been so much. I like Susan Gerbich's presentations, of course. You know, to find out about cold reading techniques if you're not familiar with them is really eye-opening, and to see how simple it is and to understand it. I think that's what I like the best. Wow.
Well, what is cold reading? Do you want to just give us a description?
Cold reading is basically convincing a person who you don't know that you know everything about them. And we often hear this line, there's no way in the world he could have known that, he or she, meaning the psychic. And we love to hear that because, yes, there are ways to know, and that's part of what, again, the reason why I'm here is to show people how easy it is to do social media trolling and get information if you have somebody's name, especially their credit card if they paid for a reading, that sort of thing. So I like that. Of course, I love the magicians. They were both excellent last night. Wow. Everything was good so far, and I'm getting ready to see something right now on cults, which I'm very interested in because magic is sort of a cult. Magic is, occult means hidden, and magicians tend to form in clusters. And they want to keep their secrets held, so it can be very close knit that way. I mean, but they're out in the open because they're accepting membership. But you don't know. I mean, there's a lot of cultish activities going on right now. I just saw the movie Midsummer. I don't know if you've seen that yet. But
the cliff scene.
It's like the new version of the Wicker Man. So if you like the Wicker Man, you know, I mean, it just shows how we don't really know very much about these groups, but they are out there, you know, and they want to stay undercover. Again, now I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but no, it's a phenomenon because I grew up in the '60s, so I saw the early cults, you know, with the Maharishi and that whole thing. Saw the beginnings. Now we're in a time where they're actually, I believe they're dangerous, so that'll be a good one. Okay?
Yep, thanks very much. Cheers.
My pleasure. Cheers. See you on YouTube.
Yep, we'll do. I'll put your link.
Oh, wait, and don't forget,
Yep.
if you're interested,
Uh-huh.
here's my book.
Yeah, cool. Do you want to just describe it?
So basically, this is my adventure into the world of the psychic marketplace, where I infiltrated for quite a few years, more than I'd like to admit, and got a lot of their secrets. So there's radio, there's television, there's the 900 lines, there's spiritualist churches. All these places taught me how these systems work. And that's the bottom line. If you have a system that I won't say believe in, you have a system that you know how to work for you, just like a magic performance, you can become one of the great psychics, you know, because as long as you can keep a straight face. So dark humor, not for everybody, and it's also on audiobook, so I highly recommend it if you'd like to read more about what I've been doing the last 15 years. Okay? Thanks a lot. See you later.
Great, man.
Yeah, it's a good book. People like it.